Commando's grenades explode shortly after just one bounce, so I find it best to just chuck these at the ground. It also synergizes with Behemoth, making it explode for every surface it touches. Huntress's glaive can bounce off dead enemies if you cast it fast enough. Bandit's reload scales with attack speed. Multi's rebar can be instantly cast after retooling, so if you don't mind playing the game on mute or replacing your R key after each run, this is some pretty good damage tech. Engi's turrets can be placed inside of some objects, making it extremely tough for most enemies to deal with. This doesn't quite make them invincible, but it'll sure as hell feel like it. Artie's flamethrower scales with attack speed, so if you finally cross that skill gap of needing Ion Surge for every run, you need to try it. Merc's dashes have startup invincibility. Timing is crucial, but you can avoid some situations that most other survivors could not get out of. Rex can achieve some wild movement when you pair his utility with launch pads. Loader's pylon is grappleable. If you aim slightly upward to where it shoots out and grapple instantly, it's a good movement boost for when there's no walls around. However, my other good loader tip is to just use Thunder Slam instead. You can use both of Ekrit's leaps to scale large walls if the first one collides. If you're playing Captain, I think it's always best to place your shock beacon somewhere inside the teleporter radius. It just pauses you from having to deal with so much shit while you're trying to fight the boss. Rail Mommy's primary skill has a slight pushback when you aren't grounded, so you can cover some huge distance without any items. And Rail Mommy's charge shots have just slightly more pushback, so you can cover slightly more distance. Void Fiend's primary skill has slight homing, although I'm not sure homing is the right word, maybe more like correctiveness. Engi's harpoons lock on much faster if you flail your mouse around like a f***ing idiot. If you wait until your character starts glowing to teleport and pick up a Gore's Tome nugget or hit a blood shrine, you'll start next stage with that money. Nanospear has a slight backwards hitbox. You'll only ever hit it by accident, but I promise it's been useful sometimes. Merc's dash also has this property, but is insanely more consistent and more useful. Hit every combat shrine pre-stage 5. Before you clear a Void Seed, make sure there's not a teleporter inside of it, because if there is, it basically takes care of itself. On the subject of Void Bubbles, remember that corrupted enemies and non-corrupted enemies will start infighting, so actively inciting gang violence will make your runs easier. Merc's Whirlwind gives him a lot of momentum for just a brief period. This can be combined with any steep surface in the game to gain some ridiculous movement. This effect is also further powered by attack speed. Other survivors can take advantage of this tech as well, but it requires a Wax Quail and more movement speed. Oh, and this is of course massively boosted by Head Stomper. Elder Lemurians and Greater Wisps are very stunnable. This has saved me many times. If you happen to get frozen as multi while holding down both fire buttons, he will just continue firing out his right arm. If you're playing alone, which is perfectly normal, don't worry, you can be more selective with your adaptive chest roll, just by pausing the game. Alright, I know the video example is ridiculous, but if you get Behemoth kills while using Desperado, it still gives you stacks. Alright, let's talk about one-shotting AWU. There's two ways that I know of to do so. One, if you're mercenary and you're the host. Dashing into it at a certain angle, I honestly really can't explain it, but try and aim for center mass, and if it hits a wall, the collision damage usually results in a one-shot. And two, the much easier way, just place a Tangling Growth at the opposite end of the pillar. Engi's laser turrets are unable to sprint, so prioritize goat hoofs instead of energy drinks if you're doing that whole thing. If you're playing as Retool Multi and you find the overloading aspect, well, you just discovered infinite health. The shield reappears in full every time you swap to it, and is converted to health as of swapping off of it. This is your health bar. No shit, right? Well, hold on, I got a little bit more information about this. This line right here is where your low health effects activate, and this striped portion is your one-shot protection. Oh, and the low health threshold is 25%, so if you don't want to waste an elixir or lose all of your watches, make sure you only hit blood shrines one time. Equipment drones bring active item cooldowns to 1/5 of their normal time, which for a survivor would take about 7 gestures. When you're buying out terminals with the executive card, don't hyper spam it. It actually goes on a very tiny cooldown. So if you buy the second item without waiting that 1/10 of a second for it to recharge, the terminal will close off because the card wasn't active. If you have Shatter Spleen and 100% crit chance, you can get rid of all your tri-tips because they don't apply to separate stacks of bleed. Loader takes no fall damage, so you can just do this. If you're trying to scale the moon pillar but don't have the movement to do it all in just one jump, there is a halfway point that you can stand on. And one more note for the 3 of you that actually still do the pillars. If you take the launch pad, be extremely careful when using your feather if you do at all. Because if you jump into the barrier, you just get stuck. You can unstick yourself with another jump, but if you have no remaining jumps, you will be soft-locked. The drop chance of elite aspect equipments are affected by luck. You can straight up dodge void implosions with Strides of Heresy. Engi's turrets and Captain's beacons can push down the buttons on Abandoned Aqueduct. Don't worry, I know you already knew this. Are you aware though that there's a third character that can do this? Loader's Pylon, while extremely tough to aim properly for this trick, is also capable of pushing down one of the buttons. It just also puts you on a time limit for getting to the other button. The burst from Multi's nail gun has high pushback property, and can be used pretty creatively with high attack speed. Your timer freezes in the Gilded Coast, and there's 4 chests in the same location each time you visit. So as long as you can handle a Titan of Piss, this isn't bad to frequent. Having 5 regenerative scrap and visiting new makes you eligible for a completely free legendary item every time. If you're playing with Artifact of Vengeance enabled, and you're playing as Engineer, and you let him put his turrets down, you can get 3 items instead of 1, because his turrets drop them too. If you want your mines to get some extra distance, just strap them on a teammate. It's pretty good time management practice to locate the teleporter and then buy chests furthest from it first. This way, if you trust yourself to do the teleporter early, you can buy things nearby afterward. If I could give one truly honest piece of advice that even I struggle to follow, it's to not ever get close to scavengers. Like, just always endeavor to fight them at a distance.